Hi, everyone. My name is Radhika Kulkarni, and I'm the Social Media Marketing and Enrollment Coordinator at EduConnect USA. I want to thank you all today for joining us and welcome to our webinar. I'd like to now introduce you to Rodrigue Coliani, who is the President and CEO of EduConnect USA, and he'll be speaking in detail about what you can do after a J1 in the United States. Over to you, Rodrigue.
Thank you very much, Radhika. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon or good evening, depending on where in the world you're located. My name is Rodrigue, and it's a pleasure to be with you today and talk to you about opportunities, incredible opportunities that for J1 visa holders, but not only. This webinar today is specifically about J1 candidates who are potentially in the US or about to start a J1 program and who wonder how they can, extend their stay in the US, continue to do a practical training. So we'll go over all those details. But first of all, let me tell you a little bit about EduConnect. We are an educational and career-oriented consulting firm. What we do and what we specialize are cultural exchange program, educational program. I'll talk about the CPT and OPT, which is curriculum practical training and optional practical training. And we specialize also in recruitment from host companies in the US who are interested in hosting international students. To do a practical training in their company. And because of our expertise, experience in the US for the last 25 years, we are very, very also familiar with everything related to immigration regulations, laws, visa, and many different aspects that are very important in this type of programs. So, what we will see now, and Radhika, if you can change screen. Yeah, okay. So first of all, we want to tell you that we understand your challenges. I personally am originally from France. I've been here in the US. I came here initially on a J1 visa myself. Then I was able to be sponsored by the company and do an H1B visa. And after that, I started my own company with an investor visa or e-visa. So we're very knowledgeable, and all our teams is very knowledgeable about students coming from abroad, whether they are from, Europe, South America, India, Asia. We have helped through the years in my entire experience. I've probably helped more than 20,000 young graduate students to do either J1 programs or F1 programs. So we understand really your expectations. We understand what you're looking for. We understand your challenges. And that's why we are here to help you. So we have a great network of host companies, and also we work specifically with a university that allows you to come and study in the US to do an MBA program. And Radhika, if you don't mind changing screen. Right, so first of all, I want to go through the different immigration concepts. When someone comes in the US, on any type of visa, when it's a non-permanent visa, which is like a J1 visa for an internship, an H1B visa, a work visa, an investor visa, you always have to have an intent to return home. That's really one of the most immigration concepts in the US. That any immigration officers will ask you whenever you request to a visa for the US, whenever you request to study, to work, to do an au pair program, you have to have an intent to return to your home country. The second important concept is change of status. Even though your intent when you apply, let's say for a J1 visa, is to go back to your home country once your internship is finished, there is what is called a change of status. You have the ability during your program, if you decide to change, if you change your mind and you want to study and do an MBA, or if you want to find, an employment and have the opportunity to change status, you have the ability to do that. It is legal. There are many different change of status possible. Today, we're going to specifically talk about the change of status between a J1 visa, the intern trainee category, and an F1 visa, which is a student visa. So you have to know that it is totally legal to change from a J1 intern trainee category visa to an F1 student visa if you wish to. And then there is a concept of CPT and OPT. So what is actually a CPT? It's called a curricular practical training. And a curricular practical training is basically the option to do an internship, to work either part-time or full-time for a company while you're studying towards a degree. If you decide to do the program that we offer, which is an MBA, you have the ability during your MBA and during as soon as day one of the start of the program to apply for a CPT and be able to work part-time or full-time in a host company while studying. And this is the benefit of, being able to put in practice what you learn during your program, during the different courses, whether it's marketing, finance, management. You have the ability to put that in practice in a company and also being paid for it, and allow you to pay for your housing, pay for a portion of your tuition. This is a great opportunity for international students because, as we know, studying and living in the US can be somewhat expensive. Now, the second concept is OPT, optional practical training. This basically, an OPT is once you graduate, once you finish your study and you obtain a degree, a graduate degree, you have the opportunity and the ability to obtain a temporary employment card, or also called EAD, which allows you to work full-time for an employer for 12 months after your graduation. So this is a great benefit because most of the students who are studying towards an MBA, doing a CPG and an internship, do have opportunities to grow within the company where they have done their internship. And now, once graduate, they have the opportunity to actually get a job offer, an employment, and remain with the employer for an additional 12 months. What you have to know also is that certain programs, which are called STEM program for scientific, technology, engineering, mathematics, have the opportunity to work for a company for up to 36 months with an OPT. So it's a 3-year OPT. And that's a great opportunity. So something to consider and to keep in mind. Now, the big question, what do you do after a J1 visa? Obviously, you can decide to return to your home country. You have done your internship in the US and you have opportunities in your home country or in other countries around the world, which I think is amazing. But if you wish to remain in the US, extend your stay, continue potentially to train for the same employer, one of the key opportunities that we're presenting today, it's an executive style MBA. So this executive style MBA means that you would have to change status from a J1 to an F1 visa. You would study toward an MBA program. You would have to attend classes, but you would have the ability to continue also training at your employer. As you know, the typical options for J1 visa holder who wants to stay in the US is to be sponsored for an H1B visa or open their own company and do an E2 visa as an investor, but there are a lot of challenges to that. There are quotas for H1B visa. And just this year in 2023, for only 55,000 H1B visa available, there were more than $400,000 applicants who requested the H1B visa. And the US government actually does a lottery. And you have only 13% approximately. That's kind of the numbers that we heard about. This year is like once you apply for an H-1B, you have approximately 13-14% probability of getting an H-1B visa. So because of the quota, because of the lottery, also because of costly legal fees, it's very hard right now to obtain an H-1B visa or other type of visa. So that's why the MBA options and the F1 student visa is a great solution. Now, what is exactly our program? The program that we offer is a one-year MBA program. Why 1 year? Because it's intensive. Most students do want to finish their study as soon as possible to have the ability to work and start their professional careers. So we have basically condensed a 2-year MBA program into 1 year. This program is an accredited program by the Department of Education. It's done in partnership with Alliance International University, based in, they have actually 6 campuses in California, but this program is specifically based in Los Angeles. And it's an hybrid format, meaning that you will have a combination of online classes and on-campus classes. So let me explain that. The beauty of this program is, let's say you're J1 visa, you are in San Francisco, or you are located in New York, and your objective is actually to do an MBA, but also to stay and continue living in New York and continue your practical training at your current host employer. This program will allow you to do so. You will have to take online classes while you are in New York, and then once every 4 months, once every semesters, you will have to come on campus in Los Angeles for a 1 week period. So 6 to 8 days on campus every 4 months. That's all it would take, meaning that during the 12 months of your MBA study, MBA program, you would have to come 3 times in Los Angeles. The great thing about this program, obviously, is you will get an MBA, an accredited degree, that Alliance has amazing professors that are not only, academic, have a lot of academic experience, but they're also professional consultants. They most likely know your industry and will guide you, for your professional careers. And again, starting day 1 of your program, you have what is called a day 1 CPT. You are able to continue or to start working with a host employer as soon as you start the program. All right. Now, as far as the executive style MBA program, why do we call it executive style? It's because of the calendar. As you know, most executive MBA are done for young professionals who don't necessarily have the ability and time to attend full-time classes every week and come on campus. So that's why we created this executive style MBA, which is a calendar thing. You remain wherever you live, wherever you work with your host employer for 4 months, and then you come for a 1 week intensive classes on campus. We have 4 concentration, depending on the area you would like to study and work. The first one is hospitality management. The second one is marketing and digital trends. Third is information technology management. And then the last one is management and leadership. So we have different options of MBA. Some students also have the ability to customize their concentration. If there is a certain field that you want to concentrate or specialize in, we can do that specific request to our partner, Alliance International University, since they have different professors in very different areas. We are even able to accommodate some different potential concentrations. Now, if we look at a typical yearly calendar for you to understand exactly how it works, every courses last approximately 2 months. So if I take the following slide, term 1, and let's say a student who would start the program in January, they would have classes, 2 courses. The first one, let's say strategic marketing management and organizational behavior and global leadership. During the 2 months of January, February, they would take online classes. And then at the end of February, they would have 1 week on campus at Alliance in Los Angeles. and they would basically finalize the two courses, the strategic marketing and the organizational behavior. And they will also start the two courses of the next term, the March-April term, which are strategic alliance and financial and accounting management. So during that 1 week of courses, you will finalize the two courses of the first term and you will start the two courses of the second term. And that's how it will work. Now you would have then term 3, term 4, term 5, term 6, and between each two terms, you will have 1 week on campus. I hope this is clear to give you an idea of how often and when you would have to come on the Los Angeles campus. Now we have different intakes. You can start the program in January, just as the example shown above, but you can also start in March. You can also start in August. We have a start coming up right now in July. But I would say the key start dates are mainly August and January. But please feel free to contact us because again, we have a start date also in October, in March, and at different dates, almost every 2 months. All right. Now, what's the process? It's actually very simple. First of all, in order to register for an MBA in the US, you have to have a bachelor degree. This is a requirement. Again, this is an accredited degree. It's recognized by the Department of Education. It's recognized worldwide. Alliance is actually a university accredited by WASC, which is one of the best accreditation body in the US. So you will have to show that you have a bachelor degree. So you will either have to send us your copy of your degree, transcript to be eligible for the program. Once you have done that, we can easily help you and our team will work with you to register at Alliance International University. They have an online portal. You can upload your documents and we will guide you through the process. Once approved and admitted by Alliance, you will receive a legal document, the I-20. It's really the equivalent of what you have if you are here on the J1 visa in the US. You have a DS 2019. Well, the I-20 is equivalent for the F1 visa. It's the same type of document. It's a legal document. And then once you have your I-20, you have two options. Either you apply for the F1 visa in your home country, just like you did, for example, for your J1. You set up an appointment at the embassy or the US consulate and present your I-20, and then you basically obtain your F1 visa and come back to the US and start your program. Or, which is another great option, if you don't want to go back home and have to travel and want a smooth transition, you could apply directly within the US for a change of status, which means that we will file and help you file a change of status from a J1 visa to an F1 visa, and you can obtain your approval without having to leave the US. Now, I'm sure you are wondering, okay, what's the cost of this program? And as an international student before foreign candidates, I understand that it's not always easy to come to the US. MBA programs can be very expensive. So just to give you an idea, the average cost of an MBA in the US is approximately $61,800. Our MBA program at Alliance has a total tuition fee of $26,000, which is almost 3 times less than the national average, being an accredited university. On top of that, our company, EduConnect USA, is right now offering $6,000 grants to any students, any J1 candidate who registered in 2023 for this program. So you have the ability, instead of having to pay a total tuition of $26,000, the tuition after the grant will be $20,640. And what we have done also to help international student J1 visa holder is that we have put together what we call an interest-free payment plan, which means that you will pay as you work. and we will extend the payments in over 2 years, meaning that even if the MBA is only 1 year, since you have the ability to work for 1 additional year in the OPT, you will be able to stay for 2 years. So we divided the payment over 2 years. The initial registration and tuition fee, the first down payment is $3,500. That's when you register and when you obtain your change of status or visa. And then once you start the program, when you start studying, you will pay $359 of a 48 biweekly payment. As you may know, and if you are already in the US, you get your paycheck from your employer every 2 weeks. So what we did doing biweekly payment, it allows students to actually get their paychecks and then pay for their education $359 every 2 weeks, which I think is a great plan to help you finance your stay and your study in the US. And please make sure that you write down your questions, in the Q&A section of the Zoom or through the chat room. We will make sure to answer all your questions at the end of this webinar. Now, we have a breaking news for you, which I think will be quite interesting, is that if you are willing to change status from J1 to F1, the Immigration Department, the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, just announced that they will allow what is called premium processing starting June 26, meaning in 6 days from now. A student will be able to file a change of status and get an answer within 30 days. And that's a huge, huge benefit for J1 visa holder, because before, when a J1 wanted to change status and, let's say, register for an MBA degree, the change of status could take from 6 months to 12 months. So they would have to be and wait in the US while their change of status is approved for, let's say, an average of 9 months without being able to study, without being able to work. And that was most of the time very difficult and impossible to do for J1 visa holders. So most of the J1 visa holders, they would just simply go back to their home country and would not be able to do an MBA in the US. Now, with this premium processing available, you as a J1 visa holder can request a change of status, select the premium processing option, and obtain an answer within 30 days. So just to take an example, you are here on a 12 months J1 visa, you're working for a company in Chicago or in San Francisco, and your J1 visa is expiring in December, right? So as early as 30 days before the end of your J1 visa, let's say your visa ends on December 15th, you can apply for a change of status on November 15th using the premium processing, and you would get the answer by December 15th, and you would get the approval, hopefully, of your change of status from J1 to F1 on December 15th. Then if you register for the MBA that starts beginning of January, as soon as the program starts beginning of January, let's say January 5th, you will be able to start your MBA, to start studying, and get your CPT approved, your curricular practical training, to continue or to start working with your host employer. So really, it's just a question of planning, making sure you know exactly when your DS 2019 end date is, when you can start the process to register for Alliance International University, to get accepted, to get your I-20. And then obviously we will help you plan. But that's a great option. And through all this presentation, this webinar, I'm specifically talking to J1 visa holder. But this is also very useful for employers. Employers, if host companies, whether they're in hospitality, whether they are in IT. I just talked this morning to someone who was doing an internship at Samsung, and who wanted to do an MBA and be able to continue training at Samsung. He lives in San Francisco. His visa is ending in September, and he would be able to do a change of status in August, get his approval in September, and start our MBA program for the October intake. So based on the fact that we have intakes every 2 months, it's very easy to plan for a smooth transition between your J1 with your host employer and your F1 visa. The great thing is that for the employer that they don't have to do anything specific. They don't have to sponsor you because you are, I'm talking as far as a J1 holder. You are then a student, you are sponsored by the university who gives you the ability to get an F1 student visa, and you have the ability to work for your host employer. So for any company out there that, you know, I've hired J1 visa and they wish that they could stay longer, they can definitely tell their J1 or promote this program to their J1 visa holder to do an MBA and continue working for them for 2 to 4 years. I think it's a great program for both employers and international students. Well, I hope I've been clear and I explained the program in a short webinar. But you know, you have 2 QR codes here. One is our contact card that, you know, if you want to send us an email, have more questions. The other one is actually an appointment QR code. So if you want to schedule an appointment directly one-on-one with me to talk about your specific case, if you are a J1 visa holder, if you are a student abroad, if you are a host employer and have additional questions, comments, we can definitely plan a session. It's absolutely free, and it'll be a pleasure for me to talk to you about your case, review it, and discuss a strategy if your goal is to stay in the US, get an MBA, and continue training for an employer. So I look forward to being able to meet you one-on-one. I think, Radhika, we're going to open for questions. And I don't know if you have questions on the chat room, on the Q&A.
Yes, we do. So if you have any questions, please do write it in the Q&A. So the first question is, what if someone already has an MBA?
And that's totally fine. I mean, you know, it's the US. I don't know what your MBA concentration is, but you can totally have, you know, an MBA, let's say from France, and you're willing to come and have an MBA from the US. You know, the MBA in the US are very well recognized worldwide, obviously. So we have had students before who had master's degree in different countries, but they felt that they still needed to learn more. They still, you know, would gain more skills and wanted to get a second MBA. And they decided to choose a different concentration from the initial MBA that they had. Or sometimes they just even wanted the same concentration, but they felt that they still needed to learn more. And as you know, the management style, the marketing aspect of things, the finance aspect of things is very different in the US and in Europe or in Asia. So we have had students who decided to register and get another MBA. That's totally possible.
And can you travel back to your home country during the MBA program, during OPT?
Yes, you can. So what happens is that here's the specificities of it. If you have, let's say, if you obtain your F1 visa in your passport in your home country embassy, you can totally go back and forth and travel during your program or once you have your OPT. Now, if you apply for a change of status within the US, and let's say you're on J1 visa here, you apply for a change of status, the immigration department will approve your F1 status. So you are legal to stay in the US, you are legal to study, and you're legal to work. But if you travel outside of the US, then you would need to go to the US Embassy in your home country to get your F1 visa stamp in your passport. Because in order to re-enter the country, you need the F1 visa stamp in your passport, and that can only be done at a US Embassy or consulate abroad. You cannot do that within the US. So in that case, I would recommend to the candidate, if he needs to travel back and forth, to apply for the F1 visa directly in his home country, or to know that once he have been approved with the change of status and travel, he would have to take an appointment with the US Embassy abroad.
Okay. Another question is there an age limit to do the MBA?
No, there is no age limit. I mean, in the US, it's very common for people of all age to decide to go back and study. Obviously, we have young students who are 21, 22, 23 years old, but we have had students who are in their 40s or even 50s, and they just decide to do an MBA because that's a dream of sometimes for some people of a lifetime. They obtained their MBA their bachelor when they were young. They started to work, and they never found the time to go back to school, to university. So there is no age limit. You can apply for an MBA at any age in the US.
Okay. The next question is, are there exams required to be eligible?
No, there is no exam. What Alliance will do is they will ask for your transcript during your bachelor's, and you need to get a certain MBA not MBA, GPA, an average grade, so that you can qualify to and be admitted at Alliance, but there is no specific test.
So there's a question, if you're currently in the US as a J1 intern, can you change your company of employment?
Totally. This first and foremost, when you apply for an F1 visa, your intent is to study and do an MBA. So the first intent is not to work, it's really to study. The great thing about our MBA is that you have the ability and the right to work, but if you feel you want to change company, or you want to have different opportunities, or your J1 employer doesn't necessarily want to continue the relationship with you, once you're registered at the MBA, you have the ability to find your own host employer. We can also help you. We have a department, career service department, that helps students finding and locating employers. So it's a teamwork. It's, you as a candidate, as a university and career center department, and we'll work together to help you find a new host employer. It's the case.
Okay. And there's a question about employers. What is required from the employer? Is there a training plan or any kind of requirements from the host company hiring an intern through the F1 visa? And one more question, is there any bonding contract between the F1 intern and the employer?
So this is quite a good question. It's not like a J1. There is no training plan. What you need is a job offer letter. So the university will request you to have a job offer letter with specific wording that says that, you're going to have to, the university and the host company is following the requirements of the university, meaning that they know that this is an educational program, and it's the job that they are offering you is in your field of study. So, let me give you a crazy example, but you're doing an MBA in information technology. If tomorrow you have a job offer to be a hairdresser, the university will not accept it. So it has to be in the same field of business, so that the university can validate the position, and then you have the right to work. It has to be, in the field of study.
Okay. Another question. I'm already an F1 student in a language school. How would the school change happen? Would there just be a need to transfer between the two schools?
Yes. So if you're already in the US on an F1 visa, that means that you already have an I-20, right, with your language school. It's very simple. You would have to register at Alliance, be admitted, and once you are admitted, the school will contact each other, and you will get a new I-20 from Alliance International. So the transfer will be very easy.
Okay, another question. Hi, is there a selection of candidates to be able to be in this university, or do you take everyone?
No, there is a selection. That's why I'm saying, you will have to send your transcript, and your Alliance admissions department will, review your transcript. You have to be a decent student to be accepted in this program. There is also an English level requirement. So, if you have already taken, let's say, a TOEIC test or a TOEFL test, you would provide the results. If you haven't, you don't necessarily need to take the test, because there are other tests that, you can take online, different than TOEFL and TOEIC. But yes, there is a selection as far as, your average GPA, your grade during your bachelor. There is a selection in terms of the English level. It's totally feasible, but the answer is no, we don't accept everyone. There is still a selection that is done.
Is it possible for the company to cover the costs of the MBA?
It's totally possible. Some employers would do anything to keep a great young professional, motivated, dedicated. We have some employers that actually pay a portion and offer grants to students. As I said, EduConnect, our company, we offer $6,000 grant. I've seen some companies matching and offering also $6,000 grants. So the program now is only $14,000 for the student. I've seen company who did not offer any grant. I've seen companies that actually pay for the entire MBA of their students. It really depends on your role within the company, your responsibilities, your relationship. But some employers participate and actually attract students by participating in their tuition. We work a lot with the hospitality industry, and many of the hotels we work with, offer between $2,000 and $5,000 grants to help and ease the cost of tuition for the students, and also to attract them,
Yeah. The next question is, my J1 visa ends at the end of September. Does the return to school in October seem feasible?
Totally. I mean, we are June 20th today. I would definitely advise you to start the process. Even though Alliance is very efficient and the admission process is very smooth, but you need time to supply us with all the required documents to register. Also, if you're going to do a change of status, there's a certain preparation that needs to be done for your change of status. Some document that need to be filled out, some supporting documents. The immigration will ask you a letter to show that your intent. Why do you want to do an MBA in the US? What's your objectives? And so you need to prepare these letters. So I would say it's totally feasible. You still have basically three and a half months, 4 months. So within 1 month, I would say you can easily be admitted at Alliance if we work with you. And then you can apply for your change of status in September, beginning of September.
Okay. Is there a cost for the change of status?
Yes. So the immigration department, the US immigration department cost is approximately, if you choose a premium processing, you have two options. You can choose a premium processing or just wait to see if they will answer you in time. But with the premium processing, you guarantee that you have an answer within 30 days. The premium processing fee from USCIS is $1,750. Plus there are other immigration fees, approximately $300. So the total cost from the immigration department is around $2,000. Now you can either do the change of status and prepare the entire file with an immigration attorney, or EduConnect, our company, can help you file and prepare all the documents for the change of status. The preparation of the documents is $1,000 from EduConnect. You can also do it with an immigration attorney, but for your information, usually immigration attorney will charge between $3,000, $3,500. So we obviously it's up to you to decide if you want to use an immigration attorney or if you want to use our help. We have experience, we know how to do it. But this is a cost. Now, if you decide to apply for the F1 visa in your home country, in that case, you would have the flight, obviously, the round trip flight. So depending on wherever you live, you know exactly what the cost would be. And then you have the fees of the US Embassy to pay for your service and appointment, which is approximately, let's say, $300.
Okay. And in the change of status, would I need to do an in-person interview?
No, there is no interview for the change of status. You just send your documents, your file, you submit it to the immigration department, and you wait 30 days until they review and approve your file. In some cases, they can ask you for additional documents during the process, and then they'll take a decision.
Okay. Is there a limit in the amount of salary that can be requested in OPT in order not to be paid the minimum wage, for example, and have a slightly higher salary?
No, so there is no minimum or maximum salary. Obviously, it has to be, compliant with the legal local laws. So, there are certain cities where they have minimum salary required. There are certain states. It's very different from state to state, city to city. But as long as you have an employer and an employment that follows the local regulations of minimum salary, there is no maximum. During the OPT, you literally have a work permit that allows you to work at any position, at any level of responsibility for any salary.
So is there any support? I think this is something you've covered a little bit, but is there any support in finding a job as part of a Day One CPT?
Yeah, so we do provide help. We have, us as EduConnect, we have a specific department where we will guide you and help you. I'll take the example, but we will help you also how to write your resume, how to get ready for an interview with an employer, how you should, search for an employer. And we also have partner, those companies that, we will send your resume to and hopefully schedule interviews for you. Now, Alliance International University has also a department that will also help you. So you have basically here two teams, the Alliance team, the EduConnect team, and yourself as a candidate to locate and search for an employer. Now, we have to be also very realistic, depending on your expectation, depending on the type of position that you're looking for. You might be the best, able to find your own position once you are here and you have started the program, because you can interview in person with company, you can meet them. It's always much easier than, when you're looking for a position remotely. So the Day One CPT, you have to understand that it's not guaranteed. You have the ability and the opportunity, if you already have a host employer, to work from day one as soon as you start the program. But if you don't have a host employer, please know that, the first probably term, the first month or two, while we will be doing some research, you will be doing some research, you might not actually work and do a CPT for the first month or two until you locate an employer and you're able to start training. So it's something that we will do our best to find an employer before you arrive in the US, before you start the program. But it's something also that requires your involvement and your research also.
The next question is, so this is also something you may have covered a little bit, but if you'd like to add anything to it, does the change of status taking place on American soil block possible trips outside the US, as that can be the case with other visas? So basically, if they change their visa from in the US and have to return to their home country out of the blue, would they be basically stopped at the border on their return back to the US?
So if you do a change of status, first of all, while you do the change of status, we recommend that you don't travel, because you are not anymore on your previous, let's say, J1 visa, and you don't have yet a new status, right? You are in a period where you are changing status, but you have not been approved with the new status, which is F1. So while you do the change of status, let's say during the 30 days of the premium processing, we do not advise that you exit the US, because you don't have a legitimate status yet. You're waiting for a new status. Now, let's say you get your change of status approved, and 6 months later, while you are, studying at your MBA, working at an employer, you need to go back to your home country for an emergency, for any reason. You can travel outside of the US. Nobody will stop you at the border and say you cannot exit. You will be able to travel. But in order to re-enter the US, you will need first to have an interview at the US Embassy and get your F1 visa in your passport. So in that case, what we recommend, and what's the proper way to do it, is that before you travel, you actually apply for an appointment at the US Embassy of the country where you're gonna travel to, get an appointment at the US Embassy, and travel around the date of your appointment, so that you can, be on site, let's say visit your family, go to the embassy, do your visa appointment, get your F1 visa, so then you can re-enter the US.
Okay. The next question is there a cost to get the work authorization during the program?
No, there is no cost, because the CPT is actually granted by the university itself. It's through the DSO. It's a responsible officer, compliant officer at Alliance International University. The only thing is that they will ask you your job offer or collaborative agreement with your company, and they will allow you to give you the right to work for the CPT.
Okay, the next question is, how are American courses different than other?
Well, it's hard for me to answer, because I don't know where is the candidate from, Yeah. I can speak as a French citizens, and I studied in France. I did my graduate school in France. In Europe, the professors arrive in classes, and he's the one who have read, the different books, different management techniques, and he will explain the different management techniques. He will write on the board, management technique number 1, management technique number 2, 3, and explain all of them. The US system is very different. It's much more participating. So the professor will ask you to read, some management book. And then during the classes, you and the other students, through participation, through exercise, through role playing, you will have to understand what is management technique number 1, management technique number 2. But it's not the professors who will explain everything and write it down on the board, and you just sit still and write. You're gonna have to really prepare the class, understand it fully, understand the essence of the different management style, and discuss it with students, let's say from India, student from the Philippines, student from France. And each student with their own culture, their own background, their own experience, some of them might have worked for companies for many years. They will interact and describe and assess, what is the best management technique for what scenario. So there is much more participation, much more involvement from the students, and the relationship with the professor is very different. The professors are consultants, they are professionals. They will give you their cell phone number. You can ask them for advice outside of the classroom. It's a very different relationship than what I experienced in France, where the professor was there, I was here, and there is no contact. I've never had the cell phone number of my professors. So it's very, very different.
Okay, I think this is the last question. Is the employer required to hire an F1 student for the entire duration of the program?
Is the employer required to? No, not necessarily. The employer can decide to offer a position for someone for as short as a term, which is 2 months. Now, obviously, I don't know if the students or if the employer would want to do that, but you can potentially extend term after term or write a job offer for the full 12 months of the MBA program. It's really up to the students and to the employer. There is no, the minimum is really 1 term, 2 months.
Okay, I think that wraps up our questions.
Yeah, and actually I did also receive one more question. It's like how I extend my J1 visa. So this is something completely different, but if you have a J1 visa, you had to use a sponsor who issued your DS 2019. So depending on the type of position, the maximum length for an intern trainee visa can be 18 months or 12 months, let's say in hospitality, for example. So if you have had already 12 months or 18 months, you can't extend it anymore. Now, if you had a J1 for 6 months, you can potentially contact your sponsor and with your host employer and ask the sponsor if you can extend to another 6 months, up to the 12 months validity of a J1. So it's really a case by case, depending on the position and how long you had the J1 visa for.
Was there anything else you'd like to add?
No. It was, thank you very much to all the attendees. It was really my pleasure. I hope this webinar was informative, and please don't hesitate, to contact us. Myself, Radhika, thank you very much for organizing this webinar. And please don't hesitate to scan, the contact card, the appointment card. Maybe Radhika, you want to put it back on the screen for 1 minute before we end the meeting. So if you want to take an appointment, please use the QR code and you'll have my calendar and you can schedule an appointment anytime. Okay.
I'd also like to add one last thing is that we have recorded this webinar and we will be posting it on our YouTube, on our social media platforms. So please do look out for that. If you're not already following us, you can follow us through EduConnect USA on all the platforms. You can just search it in and you'll find us. Thank you everyone for joining us today.